As the years passed, Alvaro Castañet's workshops became as sought after as his exhibitions. Artists from all over the world traveled to attend his live demonstrations. These sessions were rarely quiet or methodical. They were fiery, intense, almost theatrical. Alvaro painted quickly, talking constantly, sometimes laughing, sometimes demanding absolute silence. He was not simply teaching technique, he was transmitting energy. One student described it as watching a storm take shape on paper. In these workshops, he emphasized a mindset over method. He discouraged copying photographs or obsessing over details. Instead, he urged painters to look, feel, then paint. He often used a bold phrase that became a kind of mantra for his followers. Paint like a lion, not a mouse. This wasn't just bravado, it was a call to paint with power, with belief, with unapologetic confidence. Castañet's paintings from this period reflect this growing boldness. The brushwork became freer, the edges looser, the compositions more abstracted, yet his subjects remained grounded in everyday life. Cafes, musicians, markets, parks. He continued to draw inspiration from ordinary people in familiar places. What changed was his way of seeing them. The light seemed deeper, the colors richer, the mood more intense. Around this time, Alvaro began to speak more publicly about the personal side of his work. He acknowledged that painting was not just a profession, but a form of self-discovery. Every painting, he said, is a mirror. It shows not just what you see, but who you are. This emotional honesty resonated with audiences. Viewers found not just beauty in his work, but something raw and real, something they could feel in their chest. He also began mentoring younger artists, some of whom have since become well-known in their own right. But he never encouraged imitation. Instead, he challenged them to dig into their own voice. He told them, find your rhythm. Your brushstroke is your fingerprint. Never apologize for it. This era also marked a shift in how Alvaro approached the concept of success. No longer driven by exhibitions or sales, he focused more on legacy. He wanted to inspire, not just with his work, but with the courage it takes to live a creative life. He began to speak openly about failure, self-doubt, and the discipline it takes to push through. There are days, he admitted, when nothing works, when every color is wrong. But you show up anyway. That's the job. In the later stages of his career, Alvaro Castañet's focus turned increasingly inward, not in terms of isolation, but in pursuit of a deeper connection with the essence of painting itself. The more he mastered technique, the more he stripped it away. He often said, when you know how to do everything, the challenge becomes what not to do. This philosophy led to a noticeable shift in his watercolors. They grew more suggestive, more mysterious. Backgrounds dissolved into light. Figures became suggestions. A splash of burnt sienna might represent an entire street corner. He was painting not what the eye saw, but what the heart remembered. These works demanded more from the viewer, more interpretation, more imagination, and as a result, they became more engaging, more personal. This period also brought a string of quiet masterpieces. In a painting of a rainy Montevideo street, the puddles shimmer like memories. In a cafe scene in Paris, steam rises from a cup of coffee, mingling with the blur of conversations around it. These moments, small and fleeting, became the heart of his art. Alvaro was no longer painting scenes, he was painting presence. Critics took notice. Galleries began to describe his paintings as emotional landscapes, and art magazines called him a poet of atmosphere. But perhaps the most telling response came from ordinary viewers, who described his work not with technical terms, but with emotions. It feels like home. It reminds me of my father. It makes me miss someone I never met. During this time, Alvaro also began to reflect more on his heritage. He spoke of the quiet influence of his Uruguayan roots, the rhythm of the Spanish language, the long shadows of South American cities, the melancholy hidden behind Latin joy. His paintings began to carry these undertones, rich with the dualities of his identity: elegance and grit, exuberance and restraint, passion and solitude. In several interviews, he described painting as an act of gratitude. "The world gives us so much beauty," he said. "All I can do is try to give something back." It's this humility, perhaps, that makes his work so human. Despite his global fame, Alvaro never lost the sensibility of someone who simply loved to paint. In his workshops and lectures around the world, Álvaro Castañet began to speak more about the why behind painting, rather than the how. He urged students not to chase perfection, but to seek honesty. A good painting, he told one group, is not one that is flawless. It's one that shows your soul. This idea resonated with many, especially emerging artists who had become overwhelmed by rules, techniques, and comparisons. Álvaro gave them permission to be vulnerable, to experiment, to make bold decisions. His teaching style was as passionate as his brushwork: intense, expressive, and unafraid. "Don't be timid," he'd shout. "Attack the paper. Make it speak." He was not just teaching painting, he was igniting artistic courage. As time passed, Álvaro also turned to writing. His books, including Watercolor Masterclass and Painting with Passion Beyond Technique, became staples for watercolorists. In them, he didn't just share advice, he shared experience. He recounted failures, doubts, moments of creative crisis. He described with remarkable candor the times he nearly gave up. This openness only deepened the respect people had for him, not only as an artist, but as a human being. In recent years, Álvaro's work has continued to evolve. While his style remains recognizable, there's a new kind of quietness in some pieces, a slowing down, a distillation. He paints fewer elements, but with greater depth. One viewer noted, his later works feel like conversations with silence. Yet even in this quieter mode, the fire hasn't faded. His passion for watercolor, for the moment, for the magic of pigment and paper, burns as brightly as ever. He still paints every day. He still explores new cities. And when asked what keeps him going, he replies simply, "I haven't painted my best painting yet." It is this restless search, this unwavering curiosity, that defines Álvaro Castañet, not just as an artist, but as a force. He reminds us that art is not about arriving. It is about moving, feeling, expressing, living. And as long as Álvaro holds a brush, he will continue to show us how to live with color, with courage, and with an open heart. hear the voice of the city, to walk through colors, and to touch emotions with a brush. Thank you for joining us in the magical world of Alvaro Castañet.
Art, without being philosophical, is kind of going nowhere. Thank you very much. I hope to see you all soon. You will love it.